Hello there, and welcome to this vlog of December 2023. This will be a relatively quick one because I've got company this weekend. She has, though, just popped out for a couple of hours, which has given me a chance to watch the CGL live stream from, is it PAX, the big convention? We basically just got like a news stream on there with like the developers from Catalyst and like the marketing people. So I managed to watch that at like two times speed on YouTube, pick up the information that I needed, and then I've got like 30 to 40 minutes to record this before she gets back. So it should be a relatively quick one, but we've still got time. Lots of interesting things coming out of PAX, but it was just as I really expected. And I did a video on this a few weeks ago. I talked about how I thought 2024 would be a very like a solid year for BattleTech, but it wouldn't be as big as 2023. Obviously, next year is the 40th anniversary year. I'm not sure if I directly mentioned that I predicted something that we're getting. I don't know. I can't remember what I said, but it's something I maybe have spoken about on the channel before. But I'll get to that when we get into what they've said. But I was kind of shocked. I was watching it and like, I'm sure that I kind of predicted that recently. Anyway, whatever. We'll talk about that. But yeah, in as an overview, like the news that was coming out was all very positive, but it wasn't like groundbreaking stuff like I think we saw with the last Kickstarter. And as I said in the video that I did a few weeks ago, that's absolutely fine. And I think they would have been a bit crazy to kind of keep on at the like level of acceleration that they'd been going previously. You know, they've got to allow their products to breathe a little bit, and they've got the time. You know, the community have kind of got to embed in. They've got to see the retail stats, stuff like that. So, all very sensible. But the stuff that we are getting is good, and I think there were quite a few like hat tips for the future of BattleTech in this like whatever it was, this like hour conversation that took place. Also, before I get into it, just very important to note that I don't think this is all the news. I think they probably will be running some more of these live streams over the next like 48 hours. But I got the feeling like this was the big drop, right? So because they talked about like miniature releases and like some of the books that are coming out. So I'm sure there might be other things. In fact, I know there'll be other things coming out in 2024. But I'm just going to cover what was said on the Saturday. So that's Saturday, the 2nd of February today. So, first big point, and this I'm really happy with, we are getting updated force manuals. They're doing it for 3 factions. So we are getting Davian, Karita, and Mercenaries. The way that it was said, it sounded like that they would be one a quarter. So, you know, the first one, Davians, is going to come out sometime between January and March, or January and April maybe. Then the Karita one will hit in the summer months, and then when we get into the fall, we will get Mercenaries, which actually fits very nicely when you think about it, because the Mercenaries Kickstarter will probably start to drop with people. You know, I mean, we keep getting like told that it's going to come very early. I'm still just thinking June. So there you go. So I will just keep saying June until I hear anything otherwise. But you know, it could be that it comes before that. But then, if in that like third quarter, maybe in like July, August, they drop the Mercenaries Force guide or the Force book, whatever they're calling it, and that is very good like marketing, because then people will be, you know, really kind of enthusiastic to get that, given they've just got this big new fancy thing with all the Mercenaries like iconography and the, you know, the kind of all the promo push that's had over the last like 18 months. In case you're wondering, these force manuals, I mean, we've seen some things like this before, but this is going to really kind of delve into like the military structures of those particular forces. The mercenary one's going to be slightly different because they will be irregular forces. So that's going to be more about like the iconography, paint schemes, the lore and the history of those mercenary units, and probably like each one's composition. So some mercenary units will be famous for having assault mechs, some will be famous for having light mechs, some will be famous for having vehicles, that kind of thing. In the force ones though, and if you are a fan of these forces, so for me, I am a big Federated Sons fanboy, so for me, getting that force pack will just, even just out of interest, I'll be able to read like the complete composition of how the Fed Sons organise their military force. I kind of know that because I like Federated Sun stuff and I've read a lot about this, but as just an overview and for it to be in one place, that's great. And I'm pretty sure I will get that. I'm actually, weirdly enough, I'd probably be much more interested in the other forces that I don't know as well. So the Kurita one actually really sings to me because I do like the Draconis Combine. Um, I mean, I know that they're kind of seen for a long time as like the bad guys in BattleTech, but they're just cool, right? Like space samurai. So yeah, just cool. So I probably would be more interested in getting that one. I would be really, really interested in getting the Capellan one. I think that would be the top of my list because the Capellans have such an interesting military because they use things like augmented lances, and that just I'd love to just get a real explanation of what that force looks like and what it's comprised of. And I'm guessing they'll do it through eras. So, like, in the Succession War era, when the Capellans were really on the back foot and didn't really have any, or didn't have many assault and heavy mechs, how they kind of got around that, what their force compositions looked like. So that's, and they will be coming as well. So I'm guessing that there will be a 2025 thing. If I had to guess, I mean, I'd probably say that they'll do all the 5 major inner sphere powers for sure, and then we'll probably get a couple of clans. I don't think they're going to go far beyond that. We might get it as like PDFs, but in terms of hard copies, we have to be realistic about that. They're not going to give every clan, every kind of faction in the inner sphere, because these are big, detailed books. So I think just doing it for the main, forces within BattleTech is actually a really, really strong, good idea. I think as well you'll get like one thing that I'm really interested in is like reading the strategical section to this, which they should be in there. So it will kind of tell you how the Federated Sons fight battles, what their general tactics are. Again, for me, I kind of know that because I'm embedded in that like history, right? Like I know it. But the Draconis Combine one, I'd just be from here, from the other side. That would be really interesting for me to see. So there are 3 things to look out for next year, and I'm sure that, when they come out, I'm sure that I'll be dropping news on it or talking about them when I get access to them or whatever. The next thing, and they literally spent like 30 seconds on this, and I don't know if I missed anything. I really should probably go back and rewatch it, but they mentioned something about like a campaign operations book. Now, I am in the middle of doing a series of, videos on campaign operations. I've kind of done the preamble bit for it. Then we're going to do the big chunky meat and potatoes section. And then as a dessert, I will kind of give my workarounds for a lot of things in campaign ops, because I think some of it is just overtly complex and quite difficult for people to understand. This, though, and it sounds like they're going to do a bit of a refresh of it. And I think they're really kind of, and this is something I've said that they don't do for a long time, so I'm delighted to hear this. They're really going to push that BattleTech as a campaign game, and I think that's really where BattleTech's strength lies. So I was delighted to hear that, and hopefully it's stripping things out, like, I don't know, how to create your own solar system, and maybe instead just giving people like really easy explanations on how to kind of manage your force. Like, I think that's what people want. They want to be able to do like a 3 to 6 series of games where it kind of follows on, and you can kind of, do your mech repairs in between, and that all exists, but it's really, really quite complex and weird, and I don't like the minutiae in there. Like, and I've spoken about this before, and I love campaign operations. It's a phenomenal book. It's a work of art. But if you're kind of saying to me, you've got to kind of manage the the fuel for your dropships and the ammo for your mechs, and I just get to a point where I'm like, look, just give me an all-encompassing CBIL cost that I have to pay every month for maintenance and ammo, and let me just explore the game and get the salvage, and like you would do in the computer game. They basically, I just love the CGL guys just to play Harebrained Schemes game and see how easy that was just to like pick up new mechs, sell mechs, and I really hope that they're going to do something like that. and make it a lot more like as an easy access point. And you know, if you want to play the old way, obviously it's set there, right? You can just pick campaign operations up and you can play the game as it was to be played as a campaign back in the 80s when people didn't have, you know, access to PCs and you know, and had seen like easier ways to do this. I just hope now they let people just get in on an easier access and just be able to run a campaign relatively straightforward, which most gaming systems have, without you having to use like vast amounts of, you know, mathematical equations and just, you know, again, each their own. I know a lot of people love that. I love some of the detail, but some of it just really turns me off, and that's just my personal opinion on it. So I'll keep an eye on that one for sure. It like I say, it seemed to be very, very uncommittal as to what it was. Maybe I just misheard it or whatever, and maybe if something really big comes out about that, I'll do a video on it. But that sounded like it was going to be something in the latter end of next year, so it's probably not being produced just yet. Next up, they did quite. They had a big push on the technical readouts. Now, I think we've got 32 of the Ilkan technical readouts, but they are, or at least 31 of them, because I've done a video recently on the classics rec guide. But the 32 volumes are on PDF format, so you can just pick them up as digital copies. They mentioned that they would do one final one, so there would be a 33rd one next year. I think it was 33rd anyway. I'm not actually taking that much interest in them because I've not really played any Ilkan stuff. But that is coming, and that also then, and this follows on from the video that I did a few weeks ago, because I did, you know, I basically just talked through the rep guide volume 1 for Ilkan. We are now going to get volume 2 of that in hardback, and that looked like a really interesting book. So the version 1, which I discussed a few weeks ago, or volume 1, had all the classic mechs in there that had been refit with Ilkan technology. This one, it looks to me very much like they're going to really focus in on those Ilkan era mechs. And I only say that because I am very sure that I saw the region on the front of that. The region is the Ilkan era mech that came in the Grey Death Legion pack. I think as well there was the Hammerhead on the front of that, and the Hammerhead's another Ilkan mech that they did a limited release of, which is a really nice mech actually, looks great. There was a Bushwhacker on there, so that's presumably going to be a Bushwhacker with updated Ilkan equipment on, and then there was a third mech that it looked like something like an Adder or a Pouncer. It was like a clan mech. It was kind of jumping, I couldn't really make it out. So, you know, yeah, I think that will be a good addition. That's, again, will I get that? Well, probably at some juncture, yes. I don't think I'll be, like, you know, desperate to get it, but it's something I think will be on my kind of itinerary at some juncture. Now, let's talk about the big news, because we knew we were going to be getting some news on miniatures, and this is the thing that I think I might have predicted, but I can't remember. I have this like flash memory of me saying, during the Mercenary Kickstarter, I remember saying like, oh, they should do a Word of Blake pack. And I remember I've subsequently, because it's the 40th anniversary year next year, I'm sure at some juncture I said they should give us Star League box sets. And that's exactly what we are getting. So again, from the sounds of this, it's going to be 1 a quarter. They've only specified one of them, so they gave a graphic on what the first box set would look like, which if I can get hold of that, I might put it as a thumbnail for this video, but we'll see. And yeah, that's going to be about whether I can finish this up and do all the kind of YouTube stuff before she gets back. So anyway, I will... I think the first box set that we're going to get is like quintessential Star League, and that's the direction that they are going to go in terms of how they're going to place this over the next year. So, and I think that's really smart because it's only 4 box sets, right? So you've got the mercenary stuff going on. This is just separate to that, and it keeps the, keeps the spice flowing, so to speak. And the first one that we are getting, and this is going to be a bit of an iconic one because I think we get Alexander Kerensky's mechs in here. We certainly get one of them anyway. The other one, I'm guessing it is, but I couldn't really tell from the picture. But in this pack, there is a there's the Star League variant of the Phoenix Hawk, which I believe, if it's the one I think it is a very powerful mech. There is the Thunderhawk, which is I only know the Thunderhawk because I think Adam Steiner piloted one after he kind of traded in his Axeman, and I just remember it being like incredibly crunchy. I think it's got like 3 Gauss rifles on there. And then the 2, which are really, I think people are desperately going to want. Although, maybe not me, but I'll talk about that in a second. This is the Atlas 2 and the Orion. And these are both the mechs that Alexander Kerensky are affiliated to. And this is like the Star League Command pack. So really, really interesting how they're going to do that. So the other ones, we don't know what they are yet. We only know the first one that we are getting this quarter at the time of recording. I'm really, really glad that they've put an Orion in another Force pack, because the Orion is a mech that I like to have in many forces, and it's quite difficult to get because it's just in one pack that came on the Kickstarter, and it's a pack that usually sells out quite quickly. So, delighted for that. There are lots of different variants of the Orion. Like in the early days, you've got ones with like SRMs in the arms and M lasers in the arms. So great to get the Orion. The Atlas 2. Now, I'd said for a long time that this was coming because we had a proper render of it. And I remember saying this ages ago, and people saying to me, oh, that's just because it's one of the new Ironwind sculpts, and that's the same kind of renders they use for that. And that's why I'm not really interested in getting this Atlas 2, because I've got 2 of those new metal renders and they look fantastic. Now, fair enough, they're not as in dynamic a pose as this one will be because this one's in plastic, but I still love that model. I think it's fantastic, and I've like I said, I've got 2 of them back there. So yeah, awesome. The Thunderhawk is an interesting one for sure. I mean, it's again a very crunchy mech. These might be packs that I get, and then I could potentially be, interested in doing a Star League company, or it would be more than that, right? Because there would be 4 of them, and then just throwing them all in the same, do like an augmented company or something like that. So I'm pretty sure I will do that. I mean, I'm guessing that they're not going to be on limited release. I at least hope they won't be anyway. I'd be very surprised if they were. They didn't mention anything about that, so these should all be available in your local gaming stores. Next up then, and so there's a bit more on this. It's just on my other page of my notes that I was taking. So that was pack 1. In pack 2, the only thing that they mentioned is that it would be Civil War designs. So that's Amera's Civil War designs. And because I've literally just come away from watching this, I have no idea what mechs are going to be in there. It could be mechs from, it will, even off the top of my head, I can't imagine. I was going to say maybe it could be something from like the RimWorld's Republic, but then again, it's a Star League thing, so it probably won't be that. It's probably going to be the Star League side. So something to think about anyway, but that was just what I picked up, what was said there, that it will be Civil War, and then they didn't mention anything about the 3rd and the 4th one. Okay, so it's a very quick analysis then on this Star League situation. And it was mentioned when they were talking that the Star League, which I think still quite surprises them, they mentioned something on the metrics of the, like the little logo faction packs and things like that you get in the Kickstarter. Apparently, the most popular one to get is the Star League. That now I think is, again, commercially, and obviously Catalyst are a much more commercial firm than I think BattleTech has had in a long, long time. So I think they've seen that and thought, okay, well, we'll capitalise that because it's the 40th anniversary and people like Star League stuff. But I also get the impression, I think this is where the hat tip came in, that they are going to basically create a 3rd Star League. And I think this time it will be serious. It's not going to be like in the post clan invasion era where it was chaotic and it didn't really work out. And I think there might now be grounds for them to look at doing this as, like not in the Ilkan era, but whatever comes next, it will be like the Star League is reborn. And then obviously you can spend the next decade to 20 years destroying it, right? So, because you always need that, conflict in the narrative to sell things and for the narrative to progress. I'm not sure how I feel about that because obviously this is a trope that's been done multiple times. I personally would have preferred the Star League to be like consigned to the history of BattleTech, but I can understand why they want to take it in this direction. And I just think it's maybe a bit of a crass way to look at it. That Star League patch sales equates to something that we should do with the future of the gaming system, because I look at it in terms of like 40k. Like the Emperor and 30k is like very popular, like everything that Horus was doing, like people love reading those books, but 30k don't sell, right? Like I mean it does, that's really unfair. Like I know 30k is very popular, but 40k is where people want to be. And I think in BattleTech, I don't think it's necessarily the best way to look at this, is to go back to and a thing where like the Star League are then issuing like the same kind of mechs that they had under the Star League, and it's someone who's very ideological. I mean, it could work if it's done correctly. I'm not damning it or saying it's a terrible idea or anything. I just think it was a real curveball that I wasn't expecting. And I don't know if they tipped their hat a little bit, because they really, they talked about that at length, about how, popular the Star League was, and it's obviously coincides with these box releases. So just be really interesting to see what direction they take with that. I'm also, one thing I'm delighted that they've done, and I'll move on to the Mercenaries box set and then I'll wrap up. One thing I'm delighted they've done with the Star League is they have dropped this ridiculous legacy issue that they've had with, it's across all BattleTech really. It's farcical, and whoever made this decision, needs to change industry, because it's just a god awful stupid idea. And that's where you've got like companies of the same mech. Now, I know that the people that set BattleTech up were military guys, right? So I get that. And if you're talking about like tanks, of course you want ubiquitous tanks, because they've all got the same parts and you can change them quickly. And yes, and it's the same principle in the real world would apply to mechs. I don't know any BattleTech player on Earth that wants a really boring company full of archers. No, terrible idea. Like, again, take your real world hat and throw it in the bin, because it's a commercial garbage idea. Like, if they started selling mech packs that were just 12 centurions, no, I'm not buying that. It's boring. Especially now, like, most people like to play like with diverse forces to have those options. And finally, they have rid us of this Star League nonsense, which is that you've got where they are so big, they've got battalions just of the same mech that you could never replicate on tabletop, because it would cost you a damned fortune, right? Like it's not like with the current force packs where you get 4 or 5 different mechs in a pack, and then you can kind of cherry pick them to your forces, and nothing really goes to waste. It'd just be a nightmare if you wanted to make like a company of like Centurions. Well, there's one Centurion in the last Kickstarter's box sets, and then there's the Justin Allard Centurion that comes in the Essentials box set, but that's not a standard Centurion. It's a Solaris Centurion. It's got a claw. It's got like an AC-20. So you'd have to buy like, I don't know, 36 of the of the box sets if you wanted all the plastic Centurions, and then sell the rest on eBay, which would just be a monumental pain. So finally, thank goodness, like I think this just does away with any of these like weird comms that were put out in the old books that the force fees should all be of the same mech or vehicle or whatever. It's just a terrible commercial idea, and these box sets I think have basically put the nails in the coffin and buried this whole notion so that we can finally move on with our lives, and that you can just collect what forces you want, and you can use what mechs you want, and you can just, have your thing as you like it. Anyway, tirade over. I do get very, very annoyed about that, because I get people calling me out on it. Like when I do like force pack, well, you'd never have that much of a diverse force in a battalion. It's like, but why the hell would I want, like, I don't know, 12 dragons? It's just dull, and I'm never going to play that on tabletop, because well, you wouldn't win, for one. I mean, it's not a competitive list. You need diversity. You need different tools in your toolbox. So, yeah, I think it's just a very good way to do this. And they did actually bring that point up in the comms today. They did mention it, that we don't want to that Star League thing where you've got like 12 mechs in the same company or whatever. So, fantastic. Well done, Catalyst. Keep going on that front, and let's destroy that myth at last. Well, it's not a myth, actually. That is how it would be. But I don't care what reality is. I just want to have fun on tabletop and collect fun forces. Finally, then, so I've got just a few minutes left here. So they gave a really nice sneak peek into the Mercenaries box set. First thing to note is that there is going to be battlefield support cards. So we got them with Alpha Strike. I imagine that these ones will be classic. The ones in Alpha Strike are obviously related to Alpha Strike, and the ones that you can buy in separate packs are classic rules. I'm guessing these will be... Actually, I'm saying that. I don't know what rule set we're going to get with Mercenaries, but so it will be one or the other, but I'm guessing it is classic. I think it's classic, and then there's like these new rules for vehicles which just make them a lot easier to manage and make them like more easily destructible, which I'm a big fan of. One thing we saw in there, I had no idea they were doing this. They've got like two big cardboard sheets full of like objective markers. So I saw things on there like there was a field hospital marker. That's great. I mean, I love when they develop the game to be more like objectives focused as opposed to like, it's just 4 versus 4. I think that game gets very stale very quickly. I think if they really want to develop like the campaign element to this and the objective like play, that's what they need to do. So I'm a big fan of that. I don't know if I'll use them myself, because I'll probably use real objective markers, but just great to see that. They also brought in, and this ties into the campaign book that they discussed, what I discussed earlier, we're getting these like campaign tracker sheets. Again, wonderful. Anything to make the game more interesting, and so you can play like a maybe 4 or 5 series event over a couple of month period. Big fan of that. So just make it easy for people. Don't overload them with data. If you can give them like a tracker sheet where it's very obvious how like any kind of math you have to do works, then I'm a massive advocate of that. The final point, and then I will wrap up. And this was a good one, but I think this was expected. They have got no plans in the foreseeable future to jump from Ilkhan. So we're kind of in 3151, and there we will sit for the time being. Again, I very much got the impression that they are going to do like a 3rd Star League. I think it's 3rd. Anyway, there's a lot of BattleTech that I missed out on, but there's like the original Star League, then there's like the post-Clan Invasion Star League when they've done like Operation Bulldog. So this would be the 3rd iteration, right? And that again ties in with the box sets, ties in with the direction, ties in with what they foresee as a very popular like entity, which is the Star League. So I'm just like, and I'm glad they've said that, and I'm glad they're doing that, because what I don't want them to do, and they never would do this again because it was such a catastrophe for BattleTech, is when they just kind of jump forward 20 years in the timeline. I don't see any reason to do that. I mean, this is me so controversial. If I had my way, we'd still kind of be in the war of 3039, and we'd be really developing in that. No, I'm only joking. Like, obviously, you've got the Clan Invasion, whatever. But I think BattleTech is such a slow burn, huge universe. Anyway, you can get away with doing like a couple of years for every like decade that goes by in like real time, because there's just so much to explore. So, and that's me at my most like pedantic and old schooly, but and I'm only kind of semi-joking. Like, I don't mind them at all progressing the storyline. Just do it sensibly, and you don't just like catapult yourself like way into the future and then like alienate all your fan base. Anyway, that's it. That's all the news that we've got thus far. So I'll leave it there. I'll try and do this drop in the next 20 minutes because she'll be home soon with food. So and then the whole video editing goes out of the window as soon as food is involved. So yeah. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. Oh, just one final thing. I've already recorded videos for the next couple of weeks. So at least until like mid late December, there will be content. I'm then going to take a break, I think, for like Christmas and New Year. So yeah, you'll see video content for like the next 2 to 3 weeks, and then I'll be back in January. So I'm not going to wish you anything of a happy Christmas because it's the 2nd of December. But in one of those videos, I do wish you happy Christmas. So that's something for you to look forward to. Right, on that, I'll leave it. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll hopefully catch you again next time.